G'day Aussie Gridiron fans, welcome to the G'day Gridiron podcast, Week 7 preview show. We have 4 games that we want to watch and talk to you about, and 2 Monday night back-to-back games to preview as well. So we've got heaps, so let's get down to it. G'day Nick, g'day Brad. How are we going? Be rad.
I am awesome. I am rad. I am ready.
Brad, there you go. I rhymed it for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Radical Brad.
What's my name?
Be rad.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What a fantastic week. Week 7. We are 1/3 done. I can't believe we're already into week 7 of the season. I can't believe the quality of games that we've actually gotten from the past 6 weeks. Either, Nick, games that we thought were going to be absolute gutter trash have turned out to be vaguely interesting.
Yeah, and we've got no idea with a lot of teams, like who's good, who's bad. Like the Colts and the Steelers are up the top. You know, you look at the standings in the AFC, it looks like you're back in 2010 or something. The Patriots up there. Like, no one's got any idea. And that's almost the best part about this season so far.
Oh, 100% it is. I asked you boys to update our power rankings a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to have a discussion about it on a show. But then, like, we all updated our power rankings, and then the next week, I think, went to complete shit where all these teams just won and lost, and I was like, hold up, do we know anything? And then, we've had some issues with daylight savings and times that we can record and stuff, so all 4 of us haven't been able to be in a room yet. But I still really want to do that, have that discussion about our power rankings, because we've got to revisit that. But holy shit, just trying to do a power rankings, Brad, is just an insane task right now.
It's hard in the best of times, let alone with just everything that's been going on lately. So, and this is the new NFL. It's parity, and, teams can go up and down like you wouldn't believe. And, I mean, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I don't want to keep belaboring this point, but if we would be talking about, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, being the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, I would have said you are on crack.
Yep. If you would have told me that 3 out of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL on statistically, actual statistics, that's a word, that this year would be Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold. Brad, you are right. I would have said you are on crack.
Yeah.
Put the glass pipe away and get back to reality.
Yeah, fully. I mean, talk about a revolution. But
talk
you know what?
About a revolution.
Jeez. All those guys, have gone to different places and spoken to a quote unquote quarterback whisperer and just kind of righted the ship. It just shows you how temperamental being a quarterback in the NFL is, and how you just need everything to kind of fall right. And what a thin line it is for these guys between, good and great. It's just, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And I think Baker's the first one of those guys too, isn't he? Like, he was the guy. Tampa Bay thought that they were just going to have a bridge quarterback between Tom Brady and the next era. And then all of a sudden Baker comes in. It's like he was a puzzle piece that absolutely fit. And it just clicked. And the whole thing was this enormous picture again. And suddenly they're on this extraordinary run a couple of years into the experiment. I don't know, 3 years into it now. And now you've got Daniel Jones finding what looks to be his home at the Colts. Like, he's just doing amazingly with Steichen. Sam Darnold, I thought of this, and I heard this a little bit during the week. I think the Seahawks had this theory that they were going to sign Sam Darnold to a 2-year contract. They're probably going to get the best out of him for a year, and then same again, move him on, and look to the future.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling they have their franchise quarterback for longer than that period right now.
Oh, absolutely. I 1,000% agree.
Like, it's like, Nick, you could start concentrating on rebuilding other parts of the roster now, because you don't have to worry about QB for at least the next 3 years.
And that's exactly right. You look at these guys, and even for Baker, like these guys are on relatively cheap deals at the moment in the quarterback market. So they've got the ability to go out and go and fix up other areas of need and everything. And the craziest part about all of it is you look at these teams, from these players of where they've come from. You look at Baker. The Browns are still looking for a quarterback. The guy that they've got sitting on their bench is still touching all the masseuses. Then they've got a 5-foot guy that is out of Oregon, and they don't know if he's the starter or if they've got Shador as the starter because the owner wants him as the starter. Then you've got Baker, and Carolina's still looking for a quarterback. And then even look at Sam Darnold. The Jets are still looking for a quarterback. The Panthers are still looking for a quarterback. So it's insane, like giving up on a quarterback so early, and then they come out and they're able to play like they have. It's really insane, really. It just shows you how much situation sort of matters in this league. And one of the guys we'll talk about in a minute, Caleb Williams, of how, he had such a sort of weird setup that first year. And then, under Ben Johnson, looked like you can see the cogs are turning for him. So just proves that situation and coaching matters so much more than in this league than most sports.
It makes me really interested to see where, you mentioned one of them in particular that really interests me, where Dylan Gabriel might end up through his career, maybe in his second or third team, be that Baker Mayfield who might go 3-4 teams before he finds a click, because he hasn't played badly, but the kid just needs more. And it reminds me a lot of Sam Darnold getting thrown to the walls at the Jets and Baker in the first year at the Bears, the Browns, you know what I mean? So it just reminds me of that situation a little bit, and just to see where that kid ends up. Maybe the same as Shador, although I don't think it'd be wild if there's moronic Browns ask Shador to throw 59 times in a game, like they did to Gabriel this past weekend. Absolutely wild, but I don't think that'll ever happen. But sorry, I don't mean to carry on about the Browns every single week, but
let's not do that. People are not listening now.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to tune out. We're on the fucking Browns train again. We're going to Browntown, Brad.
Who hasn't had a good time in Browntown? Let's go.
Aussie.
It might be pretty obvious, but I am not Matty C.
NFL.
Absolutely stoked to have it on the podcast, mate. Welcome.
Fantasy.
Tay, I think it's time you just abused your mate here.
Would you rather be fighting zombies or aliens?
Find hidden gems.
And with that, we're into some breakouts.
I'm glad you're stalling because my results last week were a hot piece of ass.
We all had our struggles, mate.
You've unzipped the pennies and it's time to put the pennies in the pit. Let's do it.
I'm taking Trey McBride.
I'm just leaning on the old tuck shop, tuck graft.
And all of a sudden, he's just lighting them up.
Catch starts of the week.
I'm just going to go ahead and take Goff at Chicago.
So I'm going to go running back. I'm going to take Travis Etienne.
I'm going to go ahead and take your boy Ty Tracy.
I'm going to take Adam Thielen.
So I'm going to go and take Richo against Tennessee.
I'll take Matt Stafford.
Just a little float out the Dalton Kincaid.
I'm actually going to take Caleb against the Lions.
Friday and Sunday all season long. The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Thanks to the Aussie Gridiron Network.
Got to give me the dance floor. I'll probably fucking snap the floorboards.
All right. We have, as I said at the top, 4 games that we want to watch for this week. Once again, we've each picked a game. Even though Isaac's not here, he still gets to pick a game. We're debating in the green room whether or not Isaac has stitched us up. So I know he listens to this. So, mate, you may have stitched us up here with
Bloody
his
Rams
game.
fans.
Yep, bloody Rams fans. So he still gets to pick a game. I'll intro that in a minute. But there is the 4 games that we want to watch, plus the Monday night previews, of which we have 2 games this week. They look like really good games too, which is, again, Monday night is just giving and giving and giving. So thankfully, the scheduling gods have got it correct for this one, 10 a.m. and a 1 p.m. game. as they should be, back to back on TV. So that's how you should. 6 hours of football on Tuesday in Australia. It sounds great to me, Brad.
Not great. Awesome.
Awesome.
Yes.
Anytime you can get 6 hours of football, it's awesome. So let's jump into the games we want to watch for this week, hey? And let's get Isaac's game out of the way to start with. Because we have sort of foreshadowed it enough. He has kind of stitched this up when you hear that he has picked Saints at Bears. 4 a.m. game, early slot. The Bears are minus 5.5 at the moment, so they're 5.5 point favourites. The total sitting at 46.5, which is pretty reasonable for a game of this level. The 1-5 Saints travel to the Windy City to take on a 3-2 Bears team coming off a hard-fought win over the Commanders on Monday Night Football. Jake Moody should be carried around Chicago on an Egyptian litter after kicking 4 out of 5 field goals on Monday night to account for basically half of the Bears' points. After going 3 of 10 on third down conversions and only 1 of 3 in the red zone against the Commanders, the Bears will be looking to get right against the Saints team, who have been playing better than expected over the first 6 games of the season. And yes, I said better than expected. They might be 1-5, but the Saints have stuck around in games against the 49ers, Cardinals, and even the Bills to an extent. And it wouldn't surprise me if everything doesn't go right here for the Bears, that the Saints might just give them a bit of a tickle, Brad.
I think they will. I think they're going to give them a little bit of a challenge, and I want to be frankly carried off on an Egyptian litter one day. Who doesn't?
I thought you might like that,
but I think for the Saints, they just got to keep it close until the fourth quarter. If they can keep it close until the fourth quarter, then they got a chance. But they got to protect Rattler. We've seen Rattler's actually made some good decisions. He's done a little bit better than I think a lot of people thought he would, especially given how spotty that O-line has been. And the Bears are going to try and move him off his spot. That's the thing with Rattler. If he can stay and get into a rhythm, like with most NFL quarterbacks, but Rattler in particular, if you can get him off his spot, that's when he kind of falls down a little bit. So, and their wide receiver room is banged up. So, Olave's got hip issues and stuff. And I don't know, is Kamara, I don't know, he didn't practice a couple days this week. He's getting a little older, so I don't know what that means for him come game day. But I do think the Saints, though, they've showed fight, and you've seen that with so hats off to Kellen Moore for getting them prepared at least, and not just rolling over, because by all intents and purposes, it's not the Arch Manning sweepstakes anymore. Has that guy fallen from grace anyway. So I don't think they're so eager to get the number 1 pick. So they're putting up a scrap, and this is the type of team that I think they could make some noise.
They are playing better than a 1-5 team. I will give them that.
Yeah.
And you can see the one thing I would say, if you're a Chicago fan, it's good to see that, even that they're still trying to figure out, you can see that things are starting to click a little bit more offensively. They're not quite there. It's not a smooth operation, but getting those wins early, I know they got, they had the fumble with Daniels, and then they took advantage of it. But, in this league, the small stuff really matters. So credit to them for going to Washington and actually getting away with the win this time. Defensively, I don't think Chicago is still that great. They've got some issues there, like even up front. They've got to be a lot better, but their O-line has been a lot better. They invested in it. It's something that Ben Johnson came into the offseason and said, right, this is what we need to do. This is what worked in Detroit. This is how we're going to get Caleb in a good spot. And we've seen Caleb being at least better this year.
Yes.
And this is a team that actually is leaning into the run game. We saw it a bit more last week. I think Swift had over 130 yards, if I remember correctly. He was smashing it. So and this is a game where the Saints up front defensively aren't that good. So you can expect to see probably Chicago control the line of scrimmage. The only thing that's really stopping Chicago, like in a world that I see the Saints actually winning this game or can be close to winning this game is that Chicago haven't quite been that team yet for as long as I can remember where they can actually string good form together and build a streak and then have that mentality to go, okay, we're playing a lesser team this week. We've just come off a big victory in the wet. It's a slogfest. It's a short break now. Let's make sure we stay composed and play well. That's the only sort of roadblock I see for Chicago. But in this one, like I'd be taking the line's 5.5. I'd be smashing that for Chicago.
Yeah, I think with betting wise, I think 5.5. I'm inclined to go the Saints on
in
that
Chicago
one. To be honest,
too.
so what's that?
In Chicago too.
That's in Chicago. Okay, yeah, right, yeah. I just think the Saints have been they're on the uptick. I think the Bears are going to win, but I think I would probably take the Saints if I can get it for 6. Maybe do an alternate spread and get it for 6. And I got to say I've been impressed with the Bears the last couple of weeks. They have been looking more and more like the Detroit Lions of yesteryear. Just they feel like you're getting a rhythm. They're doing some really creative stuff. So hats off to Ben Johnson and for everybody else for buying in. I would probably, if you can get a bet on turnovers, I would take for the Saints to have 2+ turnovers on this game.
Yeah. I was going to mention a bit of their defense. Whilst Swift might have got 130 yards last week, the Saints are running at about 3.7 yards per carry. They've been holding other running backs to so far this season. 5th lowest in the NFL right now. So I wouldn't. I would steer clear of sort of high yards for DeAndre Swift. That the lower numbers is probably going to be the best way to go. Really love the way that Rashid Shaheed has been playing for the Saints. I think he'd be a great bet on his over yards, which I think are around 35. So they're really low. I would even go an alternate line and just pump that up over the 50 mark just to get a bit more value out of it because I love the way he's playing. And I think he could have a pretty reasonable game against this against the Bears defense.
Yeah, I like those.
So, I mean, I wouldn't normally give out a fun police warning, but I wouldn't go. Don't bet on DeAndre Swift having another 100+ yard game because the Saints have been surprisingly good against running backs so far this season. Righto, cool. Second game. Who wants to do second one? I guess I do. I've got the other early slot game. So I went with Philadelphia Eagles at my Minnesota Vikings. Vikings coming off the bye week, and the Eagles are coming to town, not playing their best football. Jalen Hurts hasn't been playing the best that he possibly could be. Saquon Barkley can't seem to rip off a run at any point. They don't seem to get their receivers going as much as they were last season. They're banged up on defense. This team is really weird. For the team that we thought couldn't lose a game after the first 4, they've lost the last 2, and not in a good way either. They're coming into Minnesota as 1.5-point favorites, the Vikings being 1.5-point dogs at home. In what is expected to be a low-scoring affair, 43.5 is the under-over total. The Vikings have gotten a week to get a little bit healthier. It looks as though Carson Wentz is still going to be the starting QB. JJ McCarthy might actually be in as backup for this game. It's still going to be much more of a game-time decision as they still tend to look at what his injury status is, but also there's been a little bit of a talk about maybe some of the holdout has been to do with mechanics in terms of throwing. Lower body mechanics was some of the words that I read this week, where they just want him to be, his technique to be right before they go throwing him to the Wolves once again. So that's a good measured approach. But Carson Wentz, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, these guys, they're going to play well together. Of course, Vikings defense is going to be absolutely cooking after a week off. These guys are going to be chomping at the bit to get out on the field and take it to an Eagles offense who haven't been firing on all cylinders, Brett.
Yeah. I think that's putting it mildly. They are only been converting 27% on third downs over these last 4 weeks. Dead last in the NFL. You're not going to win many games doing that. They have failed to get a first down on over 44% of their possessions. Only the Titans are worse. So that's bad. That's really bad. It's just not working. Again, I think we said it. I don't know if we said it on the Tuesday show or you said it, I think maybe about, they're really missing Kellen Moore. And I think it gives him
Isaac said that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and Hurts is just, it's kind of like a tale of two halves, really. One half he's good, one half he's down. So when it comes to this game in particular, I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think it's going to be somewhat ugly, and I think it's going to come down close near the end, be something chaotic is going to happen. The Philly defense is banged up. Carter and Quinyon Mitchell are both doubtful for this game. They got a player retiring midweek. Zadarius Smith just says, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." So it's and that the Vikings offense hasn't looked great, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be one of these ugly in the trenches, but I'm really surprised Minnesota's a home dog in this game. I would lean toward taking Minnesota. I don't know. I mean, you're the Minnesota fan. You know a lot more about them than I do, but I love taking home dogs.
Minnesota at home are always formidable. That crowd is just the extra person on the field. And they make it difficult for visiting offenses to get anything done.
Yeah. So if you can, my bet for this would be take the under in the first half. I think it's going to be a really slow start for both teams. So I wouldn't be opposed to taking the under for the whole game as well. But I really would say take the under on the first half.
I'm actually, in terms of the betting sort of thing there, Brad, I'm actually thinking a little bit the opposite. I think the 43.5 is a bit low.
Okay.
The Eagles coming off a 10-day break, they got embarrassed, absolutely embarrassed.
They did.
In New York against the Giants.
I don't think that's a strong enough word.
They were humiliated. Is that strong enough? They're still not strong enough. One thing I did see during the week, and this is a report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. One Eagles player said after last week's loss to the New York Giants, and I quote, that things are starting to feel like the 2023 meltdown again. That's not a good sign. Now, I didn't say which player had said that. It was an anonymous sort of report, but it's definitely one of those guys that obviously were there in that 2023 season. And there weren't a lot of those guys from this season to that season that were there. So can only be a certain few players, and you wouldn't think it would be like anyone like Jalen Hurts. If someone like a Lane Johnson came out and said that. So obviously really alarming. The 10-day break, I think, for a team like this actually allows them to sit down. They've been embarrassed. They can now come out. I actually expect them to start fast. And the way that I think that they're able to do that is they have to get those guys open with looks early. I think if you're Nick Sirianni, I'd be drawing up players and say, right, let's get AJ Brown in the game early. Let's make sure we've got stuff that opens up the runs for Saquon Barkley. Interesting stat also came across is that Saquon's yards before contact last year was 829, which was 200 more than the next best running back. This year, he's had 61 yards before contact, which actually ranks 37th in the whole league across all running backs, which is really insane because that also attributes to, O-line not being as good, which you can see. But also Saquon, had heavy touches last year, hasn't been the same guy. I think for Minnesota, though, how this game becomes a sort of shootout is, like you said, Brad, with those sort of guys that are questionable on the back end. You've got Justin Jefferson, you've got Addison, they've got some ability with a Hawkinson as well. So they've got a lot of sort of weapons that they can sort of go to. And even if Carson Wentz has played, like, I don't know, I mean, Ian would probably be able to say this more than me as he watches a lot more Minnesota, but I think Carson Wentz so far has probably played a little bit better than what JJ McCarthy has in terms of what we've seen this year. So I think McCarthy sitting out maybe another week or two or whatever, and Wentz actually playing, I actually think favours Minnesota a bit more. I do agree that with that sort of week off coming back from Europe, that defense, is very good on third down, very good in the red zone defensively, Minnesota. So I just think it's going to be one of those games where even though Minnesota is quite good defensively, I just think the Eagles, a good team that gets embarrassed, they've had their extra time to recover, figure out what the hell's going on. I just think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Interesting. Yeah, all right. I hadn't thought of it all that way.
I do too, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, just going off some tips on Sportsbet as well.
Okay.
Some stats, sorry, I should say. Vikings' last 3 games have gone over the total match points. Eagles have been the first to 15 points in each of their last 9 road games. So, it's 43.5 is pretty low. And coming off the rest time, I think it is going to be... I think you're right, Brad. It will be a lower scoring affair. I don't expect this to be in the 50s, the high 50s. But I think 43.5 is just at that point where it probably is a bit low. Bookmakers have basically got it spot on again, I'd say. But, I wouldn't go the under. I'd sort of lean it over a bit more. Ground game-wise, like we talked about Saquon Barkley, still hasn't been able to get anything going. The Eagles haven't been able to get anything going on the ground, period. Even Jalen Hurts hasn't been able to get anything going on the ground. But most definitely, especially Saquon Barkley. The Vikings will be without Aaron Jones again. This will be the 4th game that he's supposed to mandatory miss under IR. It's not 4 weeks, it's 4 games, which is the actual thing. So this is his 4th game, so he won't be available till next week in week 8. So I'd look for a big Jordan Mason game again. 50-plus rushing yards is a pretty good line for Jordan Mason. I'd probably even bump that up to 60. He's achieved around that mark a couple of times this season already. His rushing attempts, 12 and over, look pretty good. And then, being that it's a bit lower scoring, I'd be hitting up maybe TJ Hawkinson's under-over yards, which are sitting around 35 at the moment, with some pretty good value. So,
okay, all right. Yeah, you guys both put up some pretty good arguments.
See, we can put up some good arguments against your fun police sometimes, Brad.
And you know what? Last week we had the Rico Dowdle revenge game. This week could be the Carson Wentz. The Carson Wentz revenge game. He's going up against the guy that replaced him. That guy went on to win the Super Bowl at the Eagles. So, bit of motivation there too.
Yep.
He's banged up. It's his non-throwing shoulder, but he's banged up. But there's always motivation going against your former team.
He might be banged up, Brad, but he's also a warrior.
Yeah, he is. Yep, absolutely.
Carson Wentz is one of those old school dogs.
Yep.
Will not lay down. All right, let's move on to the third game. Nick, what was the game that you chose for ones you want to watch this week?
Yes, so the rumor has it I just got this matchup in before Bradley was picking this game as well.
Yes,
so I am picking minutes. There you go. We have the timestamps as well. So I'm going with Indy going to LA again, this time to play the Chargers. So Obviously, the Colts, I'd probably say, in most people's eyes, have been the most surprising team this year, for good or for bad. Definitely on the good side. Obviously, with the near perfect start, I mean, literally the difference was, that sort of, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Mitchell that fumbled the ball just before the goal line when they were last at this game, which ultimately did cost them that game. Um, and yeah, obviously we've seen the reinvigoration of a Mr. Indiana Jones and the much improved running game of Jonathan Taylor behind that great offensive line. In my books, it's probably, a top 2, top 3 O-line, has been for a while. That Colts O-line, absolutely stellar. The Chargers also started fast. People remember, obviously, they had that big win in Brazil over the Chiefs. And then, in between the sort of first few weeks that they got smashed with injuries, talking about O-lines. They got smashed, obviously. Slater out before the season. Alt, who was out, potentially could be coming back. And as well, Mekhi Becton had some problems as well. As we said, Alt could potentially play this week. Khalil Mack, I'm hearing, could be potentially back. He's questionable. So there is a chance he comes back and potentially plays in this one, which I think would be a massive addition. From their wins, though, I think if you're looking at if people are doing sort of power rankings and everything like that, most people probably wouldn't have Indy as high. I think that's attributed to 2 things. Number one, do we fully trust Daniel Jones yet? But number 2 is India's had one great victory against a noteworthy team in Denver. So although they're off to a great start, is this start sort of sustainable for the rest of the season? As obviously they'll come up against, some tougher sort of division games. The Jags are on their tail. Are Houston going to get better? They might be coming for that AFC South sort of title. They now face another noteworthy team playing the Chargers. So where Indy can win this game is definitely on the ground, as the Chargers' run D is not great. And if Mac doesn't actually play this week, that O-line can get some movement for sure. Like, they'll be able to run the ball like they have most of this year. Jonathan Taylor's been stellar. If running backs had more respect for the MVP award, he'd be in the conversation. Despite the Chargers having issues up front offensively, the Colts haven't had much success in their defensive front. They're actually ranked last in sacks. So in previous weeks where Justin Herbert's been hit quite a bit, he won't have as much of that problem this week. So potentially with Quentin Johnson coming back, McConkey had a great game last week. They may be able to find a bit in the sort of passing game. As we know, they've been smashed in their running back room with injuries as well. Personally, I see this matchup as one that can put the Chargers back on the right path. I mean, the last 3 games have not been convincing at all. They did win against Miami last week, but it is Miami. And if they do have those guys coming back, I definitely think they could be in a good spot going back at home. I think this is a get-right game and where they can really put themselves on the right path. And I actually think, my sort of pick is them beating the Colts. Like, I think them coming in as the favourites is something that Vegas is seeing. Like, I can actually see, the Chargers winning this game in most sort of scenarios.
Yeah, this game is wild to me. It's part of the reason why I wanted to pick it. So I understand totally you getting it. I just think Daniel Jones, man, is the dude's Lazarus. It's just risen from the dead, and what he is doing is fitting so well in that offense, and they're converting just at an unbelievable touchdown rate. So what are they averaging? They're averaging like 32 points a game, first in the league. So it's just, and to say that Daniel Jones is going to be leading a top 10 passing attack, I don't want to keep going on about the fact that how his turnaround is so impressive, but you just I can't stop thinking about it. So
because it's been so immediate too, Brad.
Yes,
we didn't see him on a field last year.
Yeah.
So it's been so immediate from the firing at New York to being on a practice squad where we didn't see him on a field. We just saw him in one game for the Vikings because, we had to get the conditional pick. So they did that. And then he's just come out this season. And from the get-go in preseason, he has just looked incredible.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Like other quarterbacks, I'm just going to say, other quarterbacks like Darnold or Baker, for instance, we're talking about those guys at the top, both went to other teams after they had their first failure at a franchise, went to other teams and didn't look good still. They looked mediocre at best, and then went to practice squads or did whatever and get to this point where they look incredible now. Whereas Daniel Jones just went low to high straight away.
Yeah. And the Colts have done such a good job at protecting Jones that when he can get into that rhythm, the dude is a freak. So hats off to them. Here's an interesting stat, though. The Chargers have allowed 0 games with multiple passing touchdowns this season, which that stat really surprised me. I was not expecting that. So I don't think that's going to continue. I'm a believer in this Colts offense, and just the balance. I love the balance, and if Taylor can stay healthy, it's going to be ridiculous. And you've seen the Chargers offense really kind of change, and a lot of it's been out of necessity because their receiving core has been so depleted. But they've gone from averaging like over 10 yards in the air before they receivers catch the ball to now I think it's like 4-5 yards. It's ridiculous. It's really, so I think you're going to see a little from that Chargers, and then when they get in the red zone, they're just settling for field goals, whereas it's the exact opposite with the Colts. They're punching it in. So I think this is going to be one of these. You're going to see the Chargers get lots of yards, but not necessarily a lot of points. And I hate to say it, but I'm giving a slight edge to the Colts on this one.
I have to be leaning the same way, and it's more to do with the Chargers' lack of depth right now because their injury list is so extensive.
Yeah,
Amarian Hampton is out now from last week's game.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, from 2 weeks ago. So he's on IR now. So he's out for last week, next week, week after. He's still got a few more games left.
Yeah.
Kamani Vidal, they brought off the practice squad, and he had a total breakout game with 30-plus carries and 100-odd-plus yards. He looked sensational. But like, how long can you keep that up when, again, as Nick mentioned too, their O-line is so incredibly banged up. It's great that they're going to get a lot of these guys back later in the season because not a lot of them are season-ending injuries. They're just hamstrings and ankles and ligaments, the niggling sort of stuff. So you will get over it eventually and get healthy. But right now, like there's only so much I believe that Justin Herbert can do. He might be the second coming of Jesus to his coach, but the reality is there is only so much you can do in the NFL against other professional players who can completely destroy you. And the Colts, on the other hand, have been sort of just completely blessed with the way that the season has gone, and they've built a great O-line, and they've got a quarterback playing really great football. They've got a running back who is, as Nick said, absolutely sensational and should be an MVP conversation. Definitely an Offensive Player of the Year conversation. They've got a rookie tight end who is a phenomenal star. Their defense is playing well enough to keep them in games so they don't have to do everything. Yeah. Especially the fact that they've got, what is that, 40, 60, we're talking like, I think 80 to 90 points they've allowed over the last 5 games. Like, that's phenomenal. My only worry for the Colts is that their wins so far have come against lesser teams. We're talking the Cardinals, we're talking the Raiders, Tennessee. It was a pretty hard-fought win against Denver. The loss to the Rams was incredibly unfortunate, and I think they should have won that game and would have if it wasn't for Mitchell. So, I worry about them coming up against the better team in the Chargers who have so much self-belief. I'm totally on the fence about it, but I am leaning more towards the Colts just because I really like the vibe. The way, just the aura that's coming from them right now is sensational. And they should be riding on a high. think graphics came out this week. Were you doing the aura thing then? The vibe? Were you laughing at that?
I just was not prepared for that. The aura of the Colts. There you go. Of Daniel Jones.
The nature of monkey is irrepressible. After this week, after week 6, you usually get these things, playoff pitches come out. And can you believe, like, they should be riding on a high when the playoff pitcher right now, after week 6, if we went to playoffs, would look like AFC Colts #1 seed.
Jeez.
You know, why would you not be riding on a high when you've got that? And you've got Tampa Bay as #1 in the NFC.
Oh, how wild is that? I mean, I know it's week 6, but I'm just saying, if things played off like that, you'd see, well, Buffalo would be getting a new coach. I bet you that.
Look at that.
100%.
Buffalo.
So with the Chiefs.
Buffalo, New England for the 4th and 5th seed
Holy cow.
in a playoff.
Tomlin with the #2 seed.
Yeah. The Steelers, man, #2 right now.
Oh, gosh.
There was a lot of talk in dumb NFL fan terms where like, how can San Francisco be the 3 seed? And I was commenting back to people going, simple mathematics.
Yeah,
like
it's called math.
It's called maths, dumbass. Like it's
called winning conference games. Division games.
This is why your good teachers go overseas, Americans.
Hey, shut it.
Oh, that was a compliment, Brad, to you.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
I was going to say, sure.
That's good.
So, great. I'm going to lean that way. Betting wise, real quick, boys. Anything that you were looking at all for this game? I think it's going to be a field day on betting, and I expect probably the 3 of us to be hammering lines into the Bets with Mates group at some point.
My bet would be I'm going to take the Colts at 1.5 points, and I'm actually getting rid of the fun police, and I'm taking the over on this one.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah,
look out!
Cool.
I would be going Jonathan Taylor 100+ yards. Like absolutely, like sell the house kind of 100+. Daniel Jones over 200, maybe even over 250. I know his over-under is at 225 at the moment, so 250+ I would rank if I just stick my neck out for 250+ for Daniel Jones. That is some sensational value right now as well too.
What do I have? I like the over as well there, Brad. Mine, I'm actually going, I believe that the Chargers are going to be winning this game through the air. So I think Justin Herbert's over-under is at 249.5. So I do like the over with that one. He did do it last week in Miami. Like I said, Colts defense has been solid, hasn't been that great, but the main thing is that he won't be getting hit as much as he has in previous weeks. So he'll have those opportunities with a weakened pass rush that he's going up against.
Oh yeah, Justin Herbert over under is pretty good. I'd almost go push it to the 300 mark if you think that they're going to win through the air, because I could see heroics, Nick.
You could.
Yeah.
If Johnson comes back, then they've got a deep threat as well, so he'll have time. So pulls off a big sort of 50, 60-yard play. Who knows?
I've been diving deep into StatMate again, and 300+ for Justin Herbert on PointsBet would be $5 at the moment.
Ooh.
That's not bad.
The 250
He did it last week.
The 250 mark is at $2.50, which is still really good. So
yeah, that is.
So the really, really good odds for a lot of that stuff. Loving StatMate at the moment, because when some of these odds don't appear on Sportsbet early week, I get to look at these markets pretty quickly, or just the movements, like how good some people will be. So. Cool, righto. Last game for games we want to watch. Last of the 4, and we've left the big one to last. Brad, Sunday night football, Brad. Who is it?
It is Nick's San Francisco 49ers against the Atlanta Falcons. So I'd love to hear Nick's thoughts on this, but you got Atlanta coming in just riding high like a bird. They're just riding Bijan as well, more on the ground, more aptly, and just playing really, really well in the run game. You're seeing Penix when he's got time. He's making the right choices, the right decisions, and he's looking good. And where you've got San Francisco just limping into this game, just when you thought, you're thinking after last season, Nick, this is what I'm guessing you're thinking, like, how could it get any worse? And then the 2025 49ers say, hold my beer, in terms of injuries. And
hold my beer, hold my crutches, is what they said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hold my wheelchair.
Fred Warner said, hold my ankle. I felt so bad for him. No team, you hate to see any team. I don't mind losing, but I hate losing through injury and that kind of thing. So I think for the 49ers to got to have a chance, and you tell me what you think, Nick, I think they got to protect Purdy no matter what. I'm assuming it's Purdy. Is the toe a go, or?
No, it's Mac Jones, apparently.
Is it?
Oh, the word is Mac Jones again.
Still not Purdy.
Okay. Yeah. So
Still not
okay.
Purdy.
So the hypothesis still remains the same. You got to protect Mac Jones, but it's going to be so critical, and then you got to find some balance on the offense. And get McCaffrey had just his first rushing touchdown this last week. So McCaffrey is doing everything he can, but it's mainly coming on volume. You got to get some explosive plays, but how can you get explosive plays when your offense is the line's dinged up and stuff like that? And that defense is, of course, I don't know what you can do there, man. It's just, again, duct tape, ace bandages is what's holding that thing together. So it's not, in my opinion, I'm surprised it's as close as what it is. I really thought that Atlanta would be favored a lot more in this, because I think they're just going to lean on Bijan and Algiers. They're going to just run the game. They're going to test the spine of that defense, the linebackers, and see what they can come up with. I think they're just going to be patient and run, and then just wait for Bijan to bust off a couple big runs. So, personally, I'm taking the Falcons in the point, because they're 2.5 dogs, I think, in this. So
1.5 at the moment.
Yeah, it's moved to 1.5 now.
Yeah.
Okay, so it started at 2.5 and went down to 1.5. So, that's where I'm at with it. And frankly, the fun place comes back out. I would probably take the under on it as well. I would take Bijan on the over for his yardages, and I'd probably do a CMC anytime touchdown. So this is kind of my big parlay game for this week.
You guys wouldn't have seen it, but from yesterday, it was actually funny to actually listen. With Kyle Shanahan reading the injury report, I timed it. It took him 40 seconds to go through all of it. So,
how long does it normally take for an injury report? Do they just read the name out? That's it?
It just read so he goes, Trent Williams limited, George Kittle questionable. So literally like that.
Right,
that's how he
like
literally did it. It took 40 seconds.
Jeez.
It took 40 seconds, roughly.
Wow.
One thing on McCaffrey, though, you had mentioned about what he's doing at the moment. He's doing it at very unorthodox style compared to how he's done it previously, but also how you usually view a running back. It's a weird stat I had found that he has actually the third most receiving yards by a running back through 6 games since 2000.
Really?
So 444 receiving yards. So he's actually on par to do 1,200 receiving yards as a running back, which is pretty insane. So, and I think a lot of that has
That's such a 49ers running back stat.
Yeah,
that is.
We have been so just mashed with everything down the field that it's just been like, yes, Mac Jones, to his credit, he he has been told, like from Kyle, with the way that he wants it to be ran. Obviously, if you don't see anything down the field, dump it off. McCaffrey's there, and then he does yards after catch as well. But Mac Jones has, last week wasn't too great, but he has shown some things where he can push the ball down the field. He's been working with these receivers, like you've got Kendrick Bourne looking solid. You had Pearsall had looked solid, and then Juwan Jennings is playing through broken ribs and God knows what. I have heard Kittle is off IR now. He's potentially coming back this week.
Okay.
God, one of my ESPN fantasy teams really needs it.
Yeah. So, look, offensively is not so much the issue for me. It's defensively. A guy that's missed one game in his entire career now sits the rest of the season in Fred Warner, which is really weird to say considering he's a linebacker and he's been in this league for at least 7 or 8 years now. So he's been around for a while. Man, that was bad. When he went down, that was just the worst. Honestly, it was just like out of everything, it's just like, this is how we know you're completely stuffed with what's going on. I've got no idea. Like, seriously, this team's got Stanford Health down the road. I don't know what's going on. Like, what is going on? I can't. I've lost meaning as to what's actually happening inside the club. But I don't know what's going on. Like, we're hanging on by a thread, but it's just injuries galore. I just can't take it. But unfortunately, this is going to be a game where, like, I like D. Winters, who's replaced Dre Greenlaw this year. Is he going to be able to keep up with Bijan Robinson? No, he's not.
No.
Our secondary hasn't been that good. Our pass rush, we've got nothing. There's rumors that we're trying to get a 1-year rental out of Trey Hendrickson. Actually, Manjot floated this idea earlier today that we should, try and float something for Demario Davis, just give the Saints something, so at least we've got a linebacker there as well. I don't mind that idea either. I know they're trying not to give up on the season. And you know what? If somehow they win this game, then sure, I'd entertain it. But this is a game where I think that the Falcons, defensively, they've been pretty good, but offensively, this could be a game where they could really rip things open, like just with Bijan. They've got Pitts there, he's played okay. They've got London there as well. Like, there's just so much talent. So really, it's going to come down to, is Penix going to have another good game after they had a phenomenal game against the Bills?
Yeah.
If he's inconsistent, then I can see this being a close game. But if he's, playing very well and Bijan gets going, it honestly could be ugly just because defensively we're so short.
We've been waiting a couple of years for the Bijan experiment to really pay off, and it finally has started to actually do that, which is great to see. His line looks unreal for this game as well. 50 plus at the moment is only $1.25. I find that incredibly unbelievable. I know the 49ers can traditionally be good against the running back because Shanahan knows how to scheme running backs, so he knows how to stop running backs. But Bijan Robinson is something different, much like his counterpart in the New York Giants as well. He is a very violent and just phenomenally good runner, especially between the tackles. So once he breaks free, that guy just goes. As does Christian McCaffrey still, So it is strange that his rushing yards over the last 5 have barely broken the 50-yard mark. So, but as you mentioned, Nick, he's receiving wise, he's been sensational. I like passing yards for Mac Jones at the moment. Mac Jones playing, I think he is going to actually test this Falcons defense, like really test them again. The guy is an absolute dog. He's a middling quarterback, so I'm going to love him anyway. But that guy, 250, 275 plus, I would be just hard as nails for either of those all day with Mac Jones. I love that guy. Just his attitude is sensational. His aura, Nick, is sensational.
His aura.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the shirt hanging out in the stadium after getting snotted and everything,
Yeah, the guy doesn't give up. Like, he's puking on the side of the field because he's given it so much just by the end of a game. So I really like him. I kind of like the 49ers in this game, but I'm still very on the fence about it. I wouldn't be game to tip either way right now. I'm going to have to give it long and hard thoughts for our tipping comp as well. And yeah, I don't know if I could even pick the line. 1.5 is it 1.5? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so tiny.
Not much.
So yeah, it's not much there. Anything
I
for
do
you
like,
boys betting wise?
I like the one thing I did like is the over total points at 46.5. I do think that either way, like offensively, like I said, Kittle coming back. I'd love to see McCaffrey if they shifted him to more of a slot receiver. At least it gives it makes the defense actually respect that, and then maybe see what Brian Robinson can do as an actual running back, give him some actual reps or something. I think scoring is something that we can do, but ultimately defensively is where we're going to have the biggest efficiency, and that's where the Falcons will probably thrive as well. So definitely a higher scoring game, I think.
Yep. Let's move on to Monday night. Monday night. I can't even do that song. Bucks at Lions, 10 a.m. Australian time on Tuesday. Lions are favoured by 5.5 points at home against the Bucks. The under-over total is the biggest of the week at 52.5, and that absolutely reflects how both of these teams have been playing two high-scoring offenses against each other with two defenses who are very, very good in their own right, but teams have just been able to score at will on them so far this season, which has left them in very tight games, both teams, both franchises, in very tight games nearly every week this season. The Bucks, I think it's like 4 or 5 out of their 6 games have come down to one score, essentially last drive wins. Or even a loss as well. I think that was a one score as well from memory. I'm not even looking at the statistics, but I love this game for a Monday night for an early sort of window for us in Australia. It is going to be a phenomenal game against two very, very interesting, very, very big, very, very high-powered NFC teams. This is the kind of game which could shape the top end of the NFC for 12 weeks from now, Brad.
Yeah, it totally could. I just wish both teams were healthy. You're seeing the banged up wide receiver core of the Bucks going up against the banged up DB core of the Lions. So the Bucks are without their top 3 wide receivers in Evans, Godwin, and Igbuka. And then the Lions are, this is even worse, believe it or not, but they are out. They're 5 of their top 6 cornerbacks. Whoa. So that, I don't know how you win in the NFL when 5 of your top 6 DBs are gone, but they're making a go of it. I think it's basically it's going to come down to the trenches. I think Detroit has a better O-line, and they're going to grind it out, try and run the clock. I still think it's going to be close. If Baker can do Baker magic, then who knows? Then yeah, absolutely he can pull it off. But and Tampa Bay on the defensive side has got to get pressure on Goff. Because he's so reliant on timing. I just think as much as I want to root for Baker, and I think he'll still probably have like an MVP type game, I just think the line strength of Detroit is just going to be too much for Tampa Bay to handle, and you're going to see him pull it out.
I agree, particularly with again, we spoke about the Eagles earlier, a good team that had been embarrassed. I feel like a little bit about the Lions as well. They came off that game, a Sunday night game last week against the Chiefs. They never really felt like they were in that game later on, in that sort of second half. The Chiefs looked like they were in firm control. The one thing I will say, I know the line's quite big. Tampa has been quite good recently against Detroit. Like even like they had beaten them last year. I do remember the playoff game the year before. I think the divisional came down to I think there was only a touchdown between them in Detroit.
Yeah.
What I will say though is that if Tampa are going to win this game, one thing I would say they need to get out early. I've noticed with Detroit,
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is something that everyone else has sort of noticed, but they kind of only win that one way where they have to be out in front. They have to stay out in front, obviously with that high-powered offense. So most of the time, once they're in front, they never sort of fall behind. But in situations where they don't get that fast start or they come up against a good defense, like for example, the playoff game against Washington last year, where Washington got out to two scores and it just never looked like Detroit were even going to get that stop or even going to close the gap or anything like that. So that's one thing I sort of noticed with Detroit, and I feel like the loss of Aaron Glenn as their D coordinator has sort of hurt them this year.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that I do expect them as a good team, particularly offensively. You mentioned with their offensive line. I see this as a game regardless. One of my betting lines I had for this game is the over for the total points with Detroit at 29.5. I think this is a game where they can absolutely rip it in terms of how well they could play offensively. They had been embarrassed the week before. This is a game where they can come back, get right. They're back at home, and they can absolutely smash it because I think they'll get some opportunities, and it will be a high-scoring game. So I do think, even if, it's toe-to-toe sort of game, that they'll need to put up points because that back end of that defense is not going to help them.
My big one in this game is actually the on the opposite side of the ball. Surprise, surprise. Tampa Bay, obviously, with those receivers, all that receiving core being decimated, as Brad pointed out. Cade Otton, the tight end, I think is in for a big game receiving. He went over 50 yards last week for only the second time this season. I could see him getting 50, 65 plus yards, even a TD. You get some really good value right now, like $5 for 65 plus yards on PointsBet, and I think he's paying about $2 for anytime TD as well. So, I would be looking at that because you've got to have a receiver somewhere for Baker to throw to, and I don't think it's all going to be Tez Johnson or Sterling Shepard, to be honest. And Cade Otton has been Mr. Reliable over the past couple of seasons with Baker Mayfield, so I would look to him to be the guy.
My fun bet for this game is the Bucks have scored 3 points or less in the first quarter in their last 5 straight games. So I'm taking whatever the under is for the first quarter, and I think Detroit does a decent job at pressuring quarterbacks. They're actually really good at pressuring quarterbacks, and so I think they're going to pressure Baker, and I would say Baker's going to throw an interception. So that's another player prop, Baker to throw at least one interception. And then I like Amon-Ra for an anytime touchdown. So that's where I'm leaning with this.
Yeah, cool. Right, the second of the 2 Monday night games. Texans at Seattle Seahawks, 1 o'clock in Australia on Tuesday. Seahawks are favoured at home by 3.5. The under-over is at 40.5, which is a very low total for these teams. As we mentioned earlier, with Sam Darnold, Seahawks, they've been playing amazingly, especially Sam Darnold. Jackson Smith-Njigba has looked like one of the top 2 wide receivers in the entire league, maybe top 3. You could put him in that echelon right now with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and I don't think anybody would disagree. He has been sensational. Kenneth Walker's been getting a great amount of yards. And why am I focusing on the Seahawks? Because the Texans' defense has been woeful. The Texans' offense has been woeful. The Texans' special teams have been okay. But as a whole, the Texans have not been great. They still haven't got it together. It's not. We're out of sophomore slump now for CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
And I start to worry whether it is a coaching thing, whether it's talent-wise, there's something going on in the water down in Houston, and I would love to know what it is, Nick.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that, we had mentioned this on previous weeks with Houston, where obviously the trading of Laramie Tunsil really hasn't helped. They haven't been able to protect CJ Stroud, and that's really caused them some problems. It's going to cause them a lot of problems this week. Seattle's defensive front has been really good. I mean, Seattle's defense really across the board has been quite good. They've had some injuries, guys coming back. It's going to cause them a lot of troubles this week. But it's still been really strange for CJ Stroud because although, they've had some issues with being able to run the ball and being able to have that O-line sort of fixed up for them, he had those issues in the first year. And, he was still able to persevere, get through. I suppose in his last 2 years, he still did manage to get to the playoffs, win a playoff game, win the division. But it's interesting to see how this year goes, only because they've actually got some real competition in terms of, what could the Jags be? The Colts will be there, going after that division title. What are we going to get from Nico Collins as well? He came out to be, a potential star receiver as well. He hasn't quite been what he was that first year. Now, you couldn't say that was a lot due to injury. Obviously, they're missing Tank Dell. So, what can they sort of manufacture offensively that will keep them in this game? I definitely do think that Seattle with this one are definitely in a good spot. It is in Seattle. And although they're coming back across the country, I think it's the biggest trip you can make in the league from Seattle all the way up in Seattle down to Jacksonville last week. They are coming all the way back. I do think they're in a good spot, taking that extra day rest as well. To me, better offensively at the moment are Seattle, definitely better defensively, although, Houston's, been very, very good up front, has been the last few years, particularly, with Will Anderson at, the end as well. But I see this one being a game where Seattle would probably be able to take it out. I don't know how you see it, Brad, but I can't see many avenues for Houston, unless there's something, maybe defensively they can really lock it down and keep it close. That's maybe the only way.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to try and make the other one-dimensional. But I think Seattle's the only one that can do it. I think Seattle, that defensive line is going to, I think, just pummel the Houston O-line, and they're not going to have much of a run game, and they're going to become one-dimensional, try and throw the ball down the field, and I think it's going to play into Seattle's hands. And I think Seattle, their deep game is just too dangerous, and they'll hit a couple deep shots. They'll still have Walker and Charbonneau running the ball, keeping things balanced. So I think I'm giving, you guys said it all, but I'm giving Seattle the edge on this one, and not just by a small margin, but I think pretty significantly.
It's a weird conversation too, because the Texans obviously have won the last two. One of them against Tennessee, they shut out Tennessee. But last week against the Ravens, they won 44-10. Now, they played really well in that game, but you can't be so up and down in the league after big losses to the Jags, Tampa Bay, and the Rams earlier in the season. You can't be so up and down. You can't be yo-yoing in this league that much. And the Ravens were without some star sort of talent on their offense, effectively. So, I don't think you can read that much into that. And I think as a whole, Texans are still going to be odd. Betting-wise, I'm loving, as I said, JSN right now. He had 162 against Jacksonville last week, and that was only a 20-12 win. We're not scoring touchdowns, but his volume in receiving yards is being sensational. You can take him over that 100 mark and still get some really, really good value. And I think if you do somewhere around that 110, you'll get him around 250, which is very, very possible.
That's really good value.
Yeah, the other interesting one for me is actually Nick Chubb rushing yards. Nick Chubb has been quietly really good for the Texans so far this season. I thought he would be. I didn't think Joe Mixon would be out so that we wouldn't see him so much.
Yeah, right.
But Nick Chubb has been really holding down that fort, and I love him sort of around that 50-plus mark against the Seahawks.
Okay. Yeah, no. I like all those. This game didn't excite me from a betting standpoint. My biggest one was I think JSN is due for another touchdown. So I'm taking him as a anytime touchdown.
I actually liked another game where I looked at the total points. I actually like the under with this one. It is at 41.5 or 40.5.
40.5.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
I
low.
actually like the under with this. Yeah, because even though you've got Seattle, they've been pretty good offensively. Houston's defense has still been pretty solid. They've come up against sort of some really good teams and have showed that they've been able to somewhat contain those teams. But also, I think the biggest point is, what are we going to get out of Houston's offense?
Yep.
I know they've sort of started to get things going against the Ravens team who defensively has struggled against everyone. But I like the under with this one. I do think it is going to be a sort of lower scoring game. And even though that might sort of keep Houston in the game, I still think Seattle might still get over the top, but I still think a low scoring game in this one.
Yeah. I can understand that, how you would come to that. Because the Seahawks, they move the ball, as I said, but they don't score points. It's none of
they're
their
on the
games
ball.
have been big scoring
the
affairs.
drives.
So, yeah.
Mm.
Cool. Well, that's 4 games we want to watch this week, and we think you should too. 4 really interesting games. 2 Monday Night Football games, which are going to be, they'll be great. Those 2 Monday Night Football games will be great. I don't think there's going to be blowouts in either of those. Well, I hope. Anyway. That's a whole bunch of betting lines. I've got one more for you, of course. We've done it for the last 6 weeks. So my 8-leg multi for this week. Last week, we got 6 out of 8. We got back. The Lions let me down against the Chiefs, and God damn the Buffalo Bills, whatever is happening there. Please, God, something. The Buffalo Bills might not be as good as we think they are. I'll leave it at that until next week because they're on a bye this week, so I won't smash them so much. But they let me down against the Falcons. Otherwise, we would have been in some great territory. But this week, it's Dogs Week, apparently. We've got some underdogs in the 8-leg multi. I don't normally like doing it, but I'm going to do it this week. The Vikings at home over the Eagles. The Dolphins over the Browns. The Dolphins are dogs against the Browns.
Really?
Yes. Really. And big ones too. The Panthers over the Jets. The Patriots over the Titans. The Colts over the Chargers. I know you don't agree with that one, Nick, but I'm going that way. Packers over the Cardinals. I got the Bucks over the Lions, who are paying $3.20 for the win, the Bucks, just for the line. Oh, boy.
There's that value.
And I've got the Seahawks against the Texans, as we just talked about then. She comes out at $149.07.
Yeah.
$182 with our boost. Thanks to Sportsbet. Hit Sportsbet. We are open to negotiation.
Yes.
Light it up.
I've lit that one up, and we are crossing fingers for all 8 by the end of Monday Night Football next week, because we're going to take that all the way to Monday Night Football, hopefully.
100%.
There it is. 8-leg multi for this week. Amazing.
Yeah. I like
All right,
that.
guys. Sensational 6 games. Thank you very much to everyone for listening. Thank you very much, as always, for listening. If you haven't listened to the reaction episode from during the week, we had Alex from Mates Rates American Football on with us as a guest for our reaction show. She talked through a bit of her journey as a fan of the NFL and a bit of stuff about her own journey in American football in Australia, in the women's game. she runs her own podcast along with some friends called, as I said, Mates Rates AF. You can find them on Instagram at Mates Rates AF. Also search for that on Spotify for the podcast. It's a great podcast they put out every month with a guest and from somewhere around the leagues in Australia. Awesome stuff. Please hit that up. Go back and listen to that if you haven't yet already. Go to linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network for all the links to all the socials for everybody's stuff in our network. Us, Fantasy, Manjot at Pastry Press NFL. Of course, we're on YouTube. We're all on YouTube, especially us. So if you're listening to this and not watching it, please jump over to YouTube, give the video a like, hit subscribe for us. We're trying to get to that magic 1,000 subscriber mark very, very soon. We are so close right now. We're currently sitting at 996 subscribers. 4 subscribers off the 1,000 mark. You guys have absolutely pumped it in the last week. We've picked up 52 subscribers in the last month. We really want to get over that 1,000. We want to get further than that 1,000. So please get us there. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify right now on a podcast and you haven't yet, gone to YouTube and subscribe, please do. It helps us. Look, it helps us just get into other people's ears and eyes, just to, new people to experience our podcast and the stuff that we do here at the Aussie Gridiron Network. So please go and do that. We would absolutely love it. Next week, you know what? I'm gonna say it. Next week, I know Isaac's going to be back for a little bit with us. So we're going to try and do an early on in the episode. We'll try and do a rundown of our power rankings on next week's preview show. I reckon we're going to have a look at the betting comp, because we haven't, in 6 weeks yet, we haven't even mentioned the betting comp and how we're doing. So we're going to have a look at how we're all doing on the betting comp, the AGM betting comp, and how everyone's doing, where those scores are. So tune in for that. Tune in Wednesday for the reactions show, where we will have another guest on as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But we will definitely go through all your reactions from everywhere. Make sure you check out our socials for the reactions posts and give us your reactions. We will read them and we will react to them, absolutely. So go to that. And until next week, we've got all that out of the way. Thank you very much for listening, and see you later.